Hello and welcome, I'm Simon Everson, this is Property Box News. Coming up, rogue landlords fined and a drop in London house prices. But first, at the recent Labour Party conference, Jeremy Corbyn announced that a Labour government would introduce rent control in many cities around the UK and made it clear that regeneration is a thin veil for social cleansing. He also claimed that tenants are not being listened to and insisted that the existing cost of renting is simply not sustainable. Labour's General Election Coordinator Andrew Gwynn told the BBC recently that rents had soared under an unregulated market and action is required to bring them down, adding that the details will be fleshed out in a green paper in due course. For the common sense voter, rent control will resonate, and the floating voter would have nodded along to Jeremy's speech as he announced this. However, there are many who don't agree with these proposals and said that Labour had not learned from past mistakes when rent control was in place. David Cox, Chief Executive of Arla Property Mark, said the last time rent controls existed, the private rented sector went from housing 90% of the population to just 7%. Whenever and wherever rent controls are introduced, the quantity of available housing reduces significantly and the conditions in privately rented properties deteriorate dramatically. He went on to say, rent control is not the answer. To bring rent costs down, we need a concerted house building effort to increase stock in line with the ever-growing demand. He's not alone in this. Shelter says it supports controls to help families facing rising rental bills and insecure lets. But Chief Executive Polly Neat says, but not old-fashioned rent setting, which we think could end up harming the very people on low incomes they're meant to help. So, how do you feel about rent control? Would it work? How would it affect you? Have you been affected by rent control in other cities around the world, or maybe in the past? Leave a comment below and it'd be great to hear your views. With the Tory party conference in full swing and Boris Johnson causing trouble over Brexit, housing and property has not featured highly in the headlines, but there have been one or two statements. The Chancellor, Philip Hammond, has pledged a further £10 billion to the Help to Buy scheme, and Communities Secretary Sajid Javid used his speech to announce new regulatory proposals that are seen as giving the tenant more rights. He aims to have all landlords register with the Ombudsman redress schemes in a bid to improve the dispute resolution system for renters. David Cox of Arla welcomed the news, and Isabel Thompson, CEO of the National Approved Letting Scheme, also described the measures as very welcome news and insisted that it offers clear confirmation that the government is adopting a coherent strategic approach to the private rented sector for the benefit of consumers. The recent nationwide house price index shows that London house prices have, for the first time, fallen in 8 years, and it's the worst performing region in the country, a position it's not been in since 2005. A decline of 0.6% was recorded for the year to September, and this has caused a shift in the north-south divide, with growth in the West and East Midlands, Yorkshire and the North exceeding growth in the southern counties. This picture was confirmed by separate data from house price analyst HomeTrack, and it shows house price growth in Manchester, Birmingham and Edinburgh soaring ahead, while the capital drags down overall growth. And finally, for those of you who have large HMOs with multiple rooms, here's a story to make your toes curl. A rogue landlord in Harlesden, North London, has been fined a whopping £339,000 for renting squalid flats in a single building that failed to meet planning laws and basic living standards. NSV Management were convicted recently of illegally turning a former hotel into 26 flats, some of which were as small as 9 square metres. The legal minimum in Brent Council is 37 square metres. An enforcement order was ignored in 2012 and the company continued to con tenants out of thousands of pounds. This long-running case clearly shows rogue landlords will not get away with it forever, and the toughest action will be taken against them. And next time, I'll be looking at the new HMO regulations that are set to triple the amount of properties that will need an HMO licence. For now, that's all from me. We'll see you next time, and don't forget, like and share. Goodbye. So with the why am I saying so? Vid said vid. The rugged rascal ran. Poses his toes are roses, but Moses he knows his toes to be. £10 billion to help. 10 billion? Come on! With an ombudsman redress scheme for the first time in 8 years, and that was a bit crap.